All right, welcome back to the KFYR Plus News Desk. And coming up on May 7th, the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, will no longer be accepting state-issued identifications that are not real ID compliant at TSA security checkpoints. Now, all airline passengers 18 years of age or older, including TSA pre-check members, now must present that real ID compliance identification or another at least acceptable ID, such as a passport at TSA checkpoints. Joining me right now is Jessica Mail with the Transportation Security Administration. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you for taking some time today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You got it. So, can you explain, Jessica, the significance of the Real ID Act and why that it was implemented all those years ago?
Yeah, so this is actually a recommendation that came out of the 9/11 Commission. So we've been talking about it for a while, but the idea is we have 50 states issuing 50 different licenses. And we want one national set of baseline security standards. Identity verification, such a critical part of TSA's mission and work. We really just want to know who is that person standing there? Are they the same person on the ID? And make sure
Hmm.
they're getting the appropriate level of screening. So hope this makes passengers feel safer because it is about improving the security process for people coming through the checkpoint.
What are the main differences between a Real ID and your traditional standard driver's license?
Yeah, so under the surface, there's definitely some anti-fraud, anti-counterfeiting measures that, again, are now just sort of required across the board for the states. But the other thing is everything that you have to do to get the real ID, that's you proving your identity to the state in a more secure, higher level fashion than was being required before. So by you presenting the ID, that kind of lets us know, hey, this person has validated who they are to the state to get this ID, and it makes us able to accept it at the checkpoint.
Okay. How has the TSA prepared for the transition to Real ID compliance starting next week?
Yeah, so been talking about it for a while, working on it. In terms of our passenger outreach, really for the past year, we've been reminding people as they come through the checkpoint, hey, you aren't in compliance yet. We know this deadline is coming up. Here's some information on how you can make an appointment and get your real ID. I know a
Hmm.
lot of those people who have not been presenting a real ID have a passport or another acceptable form of ID that they might start using. So it's not necessarily everyone who needs a real ID. But the other thing is just working with our airports and airline partners. We project throughputs. We know when the busy times of day are, and then we are prepared with our personalized enforcement plans at the airport to make sure that everybody is getting that extra screening if they're coming through without real ID.
So, Jessica, I've had my Real ID now for almost 3 years, but I did have to go to the DMV last week. I had to get a new ID because mine expired. So, with that being said, it was so busy leading up to this. It was just poor timing on my part, right? So my ID had expired a couple of weeks ago, so I needed to get it re-up. What should travelers do if they can't, if they're not in getting their real ID? What should travelers expect if they arrive at the TSA checkpoint without a real ID or an acceptable alternative identification?
Yeah, so definitely want to remind people that if you do have a passport and you're kind of in that limbo period, you don't have to use the passport forever. Like you can just use it for your next couple trips until you're able to take care of the real ID issue. But yeah, if you know I don't have a passport, I don't have anything else on that list that works for me, I'm taking a non-compliant ID to the airport. The biggest message is just to give yourself a lot of extra time because we know these passengers, they could face extra screening, they could face delays, and then if we're unable to verify your identity, there's a possibility that they won't be permitted to the checkpoint. So really, if you know that you're in that boat where you are going to need it, give yourself extra time.
What kind of identification should they bring? I had a friend of mine. This is a true story. He actually brought our old high school annual, believe it or not, to get an
To
ID
TSA, to the
to prove
airport.
he was. Yeah, so he had to do that.
That's funny. So yeah, I would say if you again don't have anything else, bring your non-compliant ID, bring your old driver's license. But we have people even today who you lose your wallet on vacation or something like that, and you show up to the airport. We do have methods if you don't have anything to verify
Hmm.
your identity, but it takes a long time. And again, if you have some sort of government document that shows who you are, I would start with that. And then hopefully, we'll take it from there. You will again face that extra screening. There are delays
Sure.
even with it, but having something that shows who you are is a good start.
Are there any exceptions to the real ID requirement for certain groups of travelers?
So, again, I would just say there are forms of ID that are on that list, like tribal IDs, military IDs. There are other things that sometimes people who, for whatever reason, can't get a real ID, they find something else on that list that works for
Hmm.
them. But, great reminder that even if you're a pre check passenger, you need real ID. So, in general, everyone coming through the checkpoint needs something that's on that acceptable ID list, and the real ID or the passport are the main ones we're going to see.
So yeah, we've been going round and round with this real ID for. I mean, it's been years. Decade maybe. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline. But how does this real ID enhance security at the TSA checkpoints?
Yeah, so those anti-counterfeiting measures we want to see as not fraudulent documents coming through, and our technology is very good. When you insert that, I think everybody now has probably had an experience where you walk through and they say, "Hey, I don't need your boarding pass, just your ID," and it's because
Mm.
that machine is validating that that's not a fraudulent ID. It tells us what kind of screening to give you, and it tells us that you're flying out that day. So that's why we don't need your boarding pass. So our technology has gotten very good, but the IDs have gotten very good too. And so, we always have to stay ahead of those people who are making fraudulent IDs and making
Hmm.
sure that we are not letting the bad guys kind of get ahead of us on what a good ID is.
So, what are some of the long-term benefits of real ID compliance for national security?
Yeah, I think again that security benefit in the ID itself, and then again the steps that a passenger has taken to prove their identity to the DMV or to their state to get that issued to them also tells us that, hey, this person is who they say they are, and this ID is a valid credential. And again, I think after you go through it and you get it, you've had it. It just kind of feels like a regular driver's license to you. The upkeep
Hmm.
isn't that onerous anymore, and I think the experience of using it is going to feel very normal and average to most people. But again, it's really just making sure you have something on the list, especially if you have imminent travel, that's going to help you get through the checkpoint.
Just one final, I guess, question. Well, actually, two. How will the TSA handle the non-compliance after May 7th? And what advice would you give to travelers who are planning to fly after May 7th but not yet obtain that real ID?
Yeah, so that's a great point, and we've been talking about that. Like, hey, maybe you're not literally flying in May, but you're looking ahead to your summer trips, your fall, your Thanksgiving, your
Hmm.
Christmas travel. This is the time, and this is such a busy time right now. Maybe waiting a few weeks if you are not traveling imminently when some of this demand backs off, that might be a good solution. But not getting in that situation where, oh, I just went yesterday and I don't have the ID back in hand before my trip. You don't really want to be down to the wire like that. So yeah, I definitely want passengers to kind of look ahead, see what's right for them, and again, if you are traveling immediately, see what you have that might work.
Perfect. Jessica Mail, Transportation Security Administration, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and all the insight on this. I know it's going to be very busy for the TSA coming up in the next week or so.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 1240 now here at the news desk. We're back with more here on KFYR Plus after this 3-minute break.